It kind of overshadowed what their record was and where they finished in the West. So maybe Kyrie could be in the running or at least a consideration. They're number one in the East behind the Detroit Pistons, which is also a surprise team, but that's something else to talk about later, you know. But they are number one in the East right now while the Cleveland Cavaliers are struggling. You have to give Kyrie some type of credit, for that. Cleveland is 7-7. They just got to 500. In the West, Golden State is 11-3. So right now, Boston has the best record in the NBA. And you got to think Kyrie has something to do with that. Kobe may have something to do with that too, because he'd be, hollering at Kyrie at times. But I do think you should throw him in the mix. Just, as an early candidate. Things may change. It's a long season, but I think you got to consider it, at this point. Losing Gordon Hayward, I really thought this team would take a step back, and they have not. Guys have stepped up. Jason Tatum has stepped up. Jaylen Brown has gotten better. He stepped up. So you got to give him credit. And I think you got to give Kyrie some credit too, But it's a long season. And we'll see if he keeps it up. If he can keep it up and he gets his numbers better, I think he might be in the running, for it. You got to give him credit. So that was basketball. College and pros. And now we're going to get into football. And earlier, GQ magazine displayed on the cover their Citizen of the Year. And their Citizen of the Year was Colin Kaepernick. And I was like, wow. Like, I seriously didn't think, a magazine like GQ. And when I say a magazine like GQ, I mean just kind of, everyone knows GQ. GQ is a mainstream magazine, just like Rolling Stones, and all this stuff. It's not like, a regional or anything like that. But they named him Citizen of the Year. So I think, that's deserving, if you ask me. And we know where all this comes from. We said it before. Colin Kaepernick decided not to stand for the national anthem, and he decided to do a silent protest and kneel because he was wanting to discuss and get out there in the light some of the injustices that's being done to people, minorities, and also police brutality, among other things. And he wanted to start a dialogue, in which it has, but it has had come with a cost. It has had some backlash, with it. But I heard, this is the other thing, I heard a lot of people were talking about how Colin Kaepernick, and this was in the beginning, they were talking about how, he was trying to, make himself relevant again because, he wasn't starting. He was the backup quarterback and everything. And I'm just thinking like, that's not the way to go if you're trying to make yourself relevant, is that you do something that is going to tick off a lot of people. A lot of people. Not your fan base. A lot of people in the United States. And the other thing about it, Colin Kaepernick, as far as I know, maybe I missed something, but as far as I know, there's no book coming out, Maybe down the road, just, about, his journey, through this, but there's no book coming out. There's no reality show. That's normally the thing. Once when you're out there, I got a reality show, coming out. There's no reality show. He hasn't just been all over the media platform. I haven't seen him do any interviews, and I'm pretty sure he's been invited to do some. So I'm taking it that he's turned them down. And let's just be honest, the dude put his career on the line. And right now, at this point, his career is over at this point because nobody has signed him. You have to give him, even though I've said this before and people have heard me say it, I would have went maybe a different route, but this is the route that he felt that he needed to take, So I'm not going to just cut his head off, for it. I understand what he's trying to do. It's a silent protest. It was no violence. He hasn't, belittled anyone. He hasn't, called anyone out. He hasn't called anybody names. He hasn't, tried to change the views or anything like that, and with the NFL, I think they really thought it was just going to go away. It was going to be talked about for a little bit, but it has continued to gain steam, and then it continued. That train kept rolling, with it, to where now you got stuff with Papa John's and all this stuff. Apologize. First they were blaming the players, now they're apologizing. You got people, from the military that's one, upset, defending it, or they agree with it, or they don't have a problem with it. Advertisers, owners, and all this stuff. But the one thing that he is stuck to is that, look, we have to have a dialogue. And if this opens up the dialogue and the NFL joins in as far as whatever it is, I mean, Anquan Boldin, Malcolm Jenkins, all those guys, they're trying to have something. Maybe, the rumor was that they're trying to have, just like they have like breast cancer awareness, and salute to the veterans and everything. All those that deserve that, you can't take anything away from it, but they're just fighting for an issue that is going on in this country that people see, but it hasn't been addressed in the way that it needs to be. And if he has basically sacrificed his career, because he could have just sat back, and that's the other thing. He could have just sat back and not said anything. I've said there's people, not everybody is built for that. And if he sacrificed his career for the betterment and of this topic, yeah, I can see why they gave him Citizen of the Year. It makes sense. Peaceful, nonviolent, open up dialogue, inspire others. Yeah. I've said I wouldn't have went that route. How he decided to do it. But that's my opinion. That's just my opinion. And it's not necessarily I'm not saying he's wrong or whatever, and I'm not saying I'm right or anything like that. I'm just saying that's just the way I would have chose not to do, But the way he did it, you have to be built for that. And to me, it seems like he's built for it. So you got to commend the young man, for it, Big L said in the Wait a Minute chat room, he said, Kaepernick playing chess, not checkers. NFL about to pay his lawsuit. I don't know, Big L. We'll see. They will look at any way that they can, not deal with that and all that stuff. And I just think it's something that they should have dealt with. To me, it does affect the NFL. It affects its fans, and it affects its players, and to some degree, it affects its staff members, because you do have people who they themselves have been experiencing these type of injustices that Colin Kaepernick has spoke of. But also, it's not just that. You got family members, you got friends, you may got another coworker or something like that has experienced this. That impacts your employees, that impacts your fans, which is your customers. It's something to talk about. And I'm just hoping that it continues like it is now, peacefully. And I just hope we get to a point to where we're talking and we're not saying, oh, look over there. Let's not talk about what it's about. Look over there. There's a shiny star. There's a shiny thing in the air. No, we can talk about it. And both parties, that whether you agree or don't agree, can come to a conclusion at the end, like, all right, I understand where you're coming from. And the other side say, all right, I understand where you're coming from. I'm telling you, it will make things so much better. You just can't have, there's going to be people that's going to try and change, the topic, because they don't want to, address the elephant in the room, So, we'll get off that. Of course, we still got a lot more, to talk about. And news came down today. Ezekiel Elliott finally he fought the good fight. He fought the good fight, and he went ahead and said, you know what? I did all I could do. Let me just do my 6 games, and then we'll move on from there. Now, I said at the beginning, he's going to serve those 6 games. It doesn't matter what he does. Because at the end of the day, Roger Goodell is the judge, the jury, and the executioner. And in that CBA, the collective bargaining agreement that the players agreed to, they gave him that power. So when you're trying to fight this in court and you want to go to the judges, they're not basing it off the United States Constitution. That CBA is the Constitution of the NFL. And it gives Roger Goodell that right. I don't know why they gave him that right, but they did. I don't know how you say, you know what, you can rule on it. And then after you rule on it, if I got a problem with it, I can place an appeal, but it's going to go back to you. And then you rule on the appeal. Don't know. Now, Mac Farrell, he said with what is happening with Jerry Jones, Kaepernick's grievance is going to nullify the CBA. So we're not talking, I know we're not going to get back into, Kaepernick, but what Mac was saying as far as like with the CBA, I think with the CBA, and I was listening to Jim Miller and Pat Kerwin today on satellite radio on the NFL channel, and Pat brought up a really good point. He said that there could be a situation where Roger Goodell would give up some of that power, possibly, because right now it's not a good look for him with fans. Because it's just, to me, and I think what Pat Kerwin is getting at, it's just going to be a matter of time. You already touched up Tom Brady. People did not like that. Now, here's the thing about Tom Brady, though. Tom Brady is not liked by a lot of people, a lot of fans, because their team and him is looked at as cheaters. But there's going to be a player, and there's going to be a player that everyone loves, and Roger Goodell is going to touch him up, and then that's going to just blow the top off of it. And I think maybe he may leave, because what they're trying to do is trying to get like an arbitrator in there, to be in the middle, which what they should have did, from the get-go, and they didn't. You don't got anyone in there to just say, you know what, Roger, you're tripping. Roger, we're not going to roll with that. We can do 2 games or whatever, But until that change,